Episode 252. Murder. The smell of gasoline was spread throughout the warehouse. Several big men poured 4 barrels of gasoline around the abandoned warehouse. When Anna and Alan went in, they saw Jake lying in a pool of his own blood. Violent. Bloody. He did not look like the proud and handsome Jake Robinson they had known. Anna saw this, frowned, and looked and saw that Serena too was tied up. Serena had fallen apart. All she could think about was Jake. Lila found a lighter, playing with it, and was looking forward to see the expression on Jake's face. Sure enough, a touch of emotion finally passed on his face. He looked up at her and reached out. Lila raised her eyebrows with satisfaction and chuckled lowly. She said, "You want to talk to me? What do you want to say? Let's talk." Stepping on her high heels, she went forward and kneeled to listen.
"Let her go."
Jake's voice was weak, but very clear, pleading.
"She's innocent, and so is the baby. Your revenge is on me. Don't hurt her."
Michael Cox was content to see him like this. Laughing, he said,
"Jake, did you imagine this? Unfortunately, I didn't bring Carson over. Otherwise, it would be even better. If you died with your old man, do you think that old guy, Captain Henrik, would cry? But killing you would be enough to make you Robinson suffer. Once I'm done with you both, I will one by one exterminate your entire family. First Carson, then Alex, then Keith, and that woman Nola Robinson. Your mother will die a special kind of death."
Speaking of Nola Robinson, Michael could not contain his anger. Striding beside Jake, he kicked him hard. Jake groaned. Michael was not satisfied and kicked him several times, making Jake twitch with pain. At that same time, Charlie carefully walked forward. Although he was a little farther away, he still heard the hysterical shouts from inside. "No, I beg you, don't hit him! He will die! He will die! Ah!" He was shocked hearing the voice. That voice was Serena's. Hearing Serena's pleas and cries, Michael felt incredibly good. He reached out and grabbed Jake's hair, forcing him to look at Serena. He smiled gloomily. "Feeling good? When your mother killed my son, she must have felt so good." With that said, Michael grabbed Jake's head and slammed it into the ground. While slamming, he yelled, "Why? Why did my son have to die and you get to live after falling off the cliff together? Why? Why?" Jake's head hit the ground and made a muffled noise. Serena felt that her heart was bleeding. It was harder for her to see him being tortured than being tortured herself. She closed her eyes and her tears fell silently. Despair. Despair. No one came to save them. No one. They could just wait to die? Suddenly, she heard Michael Cox scream. The voice came very suddenly, which was out of place in the overwhelming situation. Then Lila exclaimed, "Dad!" At the same time, Anna's voice also cried, "Dad?" Serena opened her eyes and saw Michael Cox being pinned on the floor, and the man who was on top of him was none other than Charlie Wrong. Charlie? How could he suddenly appear here? Serena felt like she was dreaming. Looking at him, she soon shouted, "Mr. Wrong, run!" This is dangerous. Too dangerous. This time what they were facing was far more than a few little hooligans working for Mrs. Cox. This time, they were a criminal drug gang with more than one gun. Charlie heard the shouts of Serena and turned his head and looked over. But Michael took the opportunity and immediately fought back. Michael Cox was a heavy man now, but when he was young, he too had served in the military, so he had significant strength and agility to maneuver an attack. At this moment, pressing Charlie against the floor, he choked him with his heavy hands, picked up the steel pipe next to him, and was ready to swing. "Don't touch my dad!" Anna shouted, but Michael did not stop, swinging the pipe towards Charlie's head. Charlie understood what Michael was about to do and tried to push him over with his knees. But Michael was stronger than he had imagined. He lost his balance for a second, but regained it. He held onto Charlie's neck and choked him. Charlie elbowed his head with his face flushed. Michael immediately adjusted his angle and was ready to hit Charlie's head again. Whiz. The gunshot that was supposed to be loud became a subtle whiz with the silencer. Charlie clearly heard the sound of flesh being pierced. He was shocked and raised his eyes. He saw Michael's eyes widen and his body stiff. Immediately afterwards, he fell straight forward and steadily pressed against Charlie's body. The steel pipe that was originally held in his hand also fell to the ground and made a bang. Blood flowed along Michael Cox's neck onto Charlie's body, warm and wet, dampening his clothes. Charlie looked shocked. After pushing his body away, he immediately looked in Anna's direction. She did not move, but the man standing next to her was holding a pistol. His pair of eyes cold and indifferent. There was no panic after he just killed someone. Obviously, he was not new at this. "No!" Lila screamed sharply. "Dad!" Under this scream, Charlie left him where he was. Michael's body was lying on the ground, eyes wide open and motionless. Lila hurried to her father's side, looking incredulous. Serena was tied up far from them. Seeing that, her body went limp. Murder! Alan shot him. He had killed Michael Cox. Anna also let out a scream and felt incredulous, shouting, "You're crazy! That is Michael Cox! The goods are still in his hands!" "He was a threat. Without us being here, he even beat up Jake." "Who can help us now? What an idiot!" The goods are still in his hand. Charlie immediately caught the key words, climbed up and became furious. "Anna!" Anna was shocked. "Dad!" "What are you doing? Are you really selling drugs? Are you really doing this with Alan?" For a time, Anna didn't know how to explain it. Suddenly, there was a subtle sound outside. It was the sound of a gun being loaded. Hearing this sound, Alan and Anna's expressions were both changed. Who was outside?